What are you seeing in the political world these days?
It looks like, at least, so again, it's always funny, everybody's sources that they go to. Based on the sources I look at, it looks like the presidential race is tightening up. Again, the sources I saw had her leading a little bit, but I think it started to tighten up from there. So who knows? Mr.
Oh my
Wagner.
gosh, there he is.
Hey, Mark, I heard all the crap you were talking about me, saying that you expect this from the previous mayor, but not this one. He can't operate his own.
Come on, how
You
old are
know,
you? You have somebody send your texts for you too, your tweets? Come on, man.
I was like, man, he's rough on me. We haven't even started the show.
It's boy, you have no idea about this podcast. It is hard hitting questions, and
If they told me that Mark was going to be a part of this, I would have said no. I got misled. This is not what I thought it would be. But you know what? What the heck? Let's do it.
Why do you think you had Kyle call you?
Yeah, that's why I did all the contact.
I said yes to Kyle. Okay.
That's right. That's right. How are you doing? What's on your hat?
So I started my day. I'm a little bit more dressed down than normal, but I started my day 5 a.m. I got picked up. We were headed up the mountain for Indigenous People Day.
Oh.
And we had an event there. There was a blessing by some of the local leaders of the native tribes, and it was so cool. And Colorado Springs residents, showed up. We got to the gate by 5:30, and there was a long line of cars.
Wow.
I didn't think anybody was going to be there. There were probably about 400 people there.
I saw people posting on Facebook about it, seeing who all was going and stuff. It's got to be a pretty spectacular sunrise from up there.
Oh my goodness, the view and watching the sun rise was unbelievable. So it was an early morning. I went to bed late and had to get up early, but it was completely worth it. So this is my Pikes Peak America's Mountain hat, and so I'm kind of sporting it today to represent the second most visited mountain in the world.
I dig it.
Which is a fun fact.
What's first?
And that's after our. I was about to answer that, and you were going to ask. So Mount Fuji, which Fuji Yoshida is our sister city, our first and oldest sister city relationship, and I think it's in large part too because we're two cities with iconic mountains in our backdrop, which is really cool.
Yeah.
There you go. That's your lesson for today.
I love it. Although I think Pikes Peak was a flagpole annexation. It's more of an El Paso County thing. So no, I'm kidding.
See what you did there. Well done.
Yeah.
I see what you did there.
Yeah.
I think half of our city was probably at one point flagpole annexation.
Yeah, there you go.
Yeah.
Sometimes they're necessary. Sometimes they're necessary.
Exactly. Well, it's so good to see you guys. I've been looking forward to this. Last time we hung out, I think it was after the election. You guys kind of did like a recap of the mayoral election, kind of provided some perspective. And I remember listening to that show too. I thought that I learned actually quite a bit about your ability to frame what happened and the different factors was very intriguing, believe it or not, as a way for me to actually enter the office to just remember and to keep in mind. So, yeah.
Well, hopefully you think some of our BS was accurate, so that's good.
Well, between the two of you, you bring both perspective. I think you two have been in this community long enough. You've served this community long enough, and you've been in the arena from different angles. Mark, of course, you as an elected official,
mm-hmm.
And I know Kyle has worked on campaigns and things like that. So I think what you guys got going on is strong. So hopefully our time today I can be of value to your listeners.
Yeah.
Oh,
absolutely.
without a doubt. You raise our credibility, Mr. Mayor. You raise our credibility.
Absolutely.
And we need it.
So, and I also know that you have a hard stop here in about 40 minutes. So we'll make sure we get through some of the questions we want to ask and everything to get this rolling. But one of the things I
Checking my
wanted
calendar.
to,
Yeah, we gotta jump in.
yep.
Okay.
So
yeah.
I guess to start with, now that you've been in office for 15 months or so,
16. No, and I'm counting.
16.
16
You
months.
get on the when you get like past the midpoint, you actually start counting down at some point. Like Bill Elder, one of my great friends, he was like counting down the number of days he had left to be sheriff because he was so excited.
I'm a fan of Bill too. Let me before Kyle asked me the first question. So I wish I had it to show you, but I normally have this countdown clock on my desk. It came from Bloomberg Harvard program. I got to participate in a new mayor's program with 26 other mayors from across the country. Very, very prestigious program. At the end of the program, I spent time in Cambridge. The rest of it was virtual. But at the end of the program, they sent us this present in a beautiful box. I was excited. It said Harvard. I'm removing a black ribbon. And then I pull the present out and I'm watching a timer just count down. And I was so confused. And then I see the note. It's how much time I have left in my administration. And if you look closely at the timer, it says make every day count.
Nice.
So I have this timer that reminds me that I don't have all the time in the world. I have to get things done before time runs out. So I just thought I would share that.
Well, that's actually a great lead into my first question, because I want to start with kind of what's happened over the last 16 months. What do you feel like are one or two of your main accomplishments during that time?
Yeah, that's a tough one because I feel like we've accomplished quite a bit. I was 3 months into office when we announced Space Command. I still remember when I got that phone call, and I actually got to call my predecessor, John Suthers, to say, "Hey, heads up, this is coming. Come to." And he came over. He came to the office, and we celebrated that together. You can see that we've, we're celebrating by the end of this month, this year, we'll be getting to authorized strength, the number of officers we need to keep our community safe. We haven't had that since 2019. You've seen the accolades that have said, the number one most desirable city in the United States, the number 3 best city to live in the United States by U.S. News and World Report. The most recent one, the number 1 most neighborly city, and I'd like to believe that's a direct connection to this 1,000 neighborhood gathering initiative that we put to our residents to take ownership of their own flourishing and to move us from isolation back to community. I can go on and on and on, but honestly, guys, if there's 2 things I'm most proud of, one is how we get things done. It's not just I know people expect me to talk about what we accomplished, but I'm really proud of how we got things done. You guys know this by now that President Abraham Lincoln, my all-time hero, I model my leadership after. We sure have the same birthday. He once said, give me 6 hours to chop down a tree, and I'll spend the first 4 hours sharpening the axe. So it's not just getting the tree chopped down. We will get a lot of things done, but it's how we do that. My team hear me often say the process is as equally important as the outcome. So process, we're doing things in a way that is fair, that is transparent, that welcomes people and voices to the decision-making table. We go out to our residents. We did the citywide listening tour. We are engaging people in a way that they feel like they are part of the decision. So I'm really proud of that. So it's not just what we got done, but how we got it done. And then 2, I'm also proud to hear this. I hear this compliment quite a bit. Yemi, you're doing the things that you said you're going to do. The first time I heard that, 3 months into becoming mayor, it actually caught me off guard. Like, why is this even a compliment? But then I realized that in the world of politics, sometimes people say one thing and then go do something else. And so I'm really proud of that. We're following through. I am following through on my promises to our residents. I'll end this by saying last week I decided to go on my campaign website. I haven't been on my campaign website in a while, as you can imagine. And I was reading my policies, I was reading my philosophy of governance, and two things happened. One, I was really inspired by my own story. And then two, that sounds weird, but two, I was just really struck by how much of the things that we actually accomplished that first year that I was at the time they were campaign promises. And now as mayor, we're getting it done.
Nice. Very nice.
Well, I got to tell you, love hearing you say that about Lincoln. You know, I'm from the land of Lincoln, just you know, kind of born and raised a few miles from Springfield, where he
Did not
spent
know that.
his formative years, and so I've always been a huge Lincoln buff and a huge Lincoln fan, and the team arrivals, and you know, he kind of like you entered politics at kind of a high level, right? I mean, he, you know, it's just a couple years in the Illinois State Senate, I believe it was, one term as a congressman, then bam, president
Right.
of the United States. You know, this is your entry into politics as the mayor of what, the 39th or 40th largest
39th
city in
largest
the,
city, right?
yeah, see, I actually know what I'm talking about on occasion. What are some of the things that have happened that you weren't expecting to have happened, you know, as you come into this as a new political leader in Colorado Springs and in the state of Colorado?
Oh, that's a great question, Mark. I do feel that my values have been challenged in terms of who I am. This is a blessing of being an independent. I have to reach deep within me and say what's the right thing to do, not because I have a group of people I need to report to, but my values, my own values, have been challenged. So one of the things that, and I was hoping to say this later in the podcast, but I'll go ahead and say it now. But one of the things that is hardest about my job, frankly, for me, is the politics. I am for diplomacy. I'm for pragmatic government. I want to make good decisions that affect the flourishing of our neighborhoods. But I also signed up for politics, and the political nature of this job is it's difficult. I won't lie, and so it challenges me to the core of who I am and my very own values. If you came to my office there's a conference room not just too far from this office, and on the wall you see a big quote from Abraham Lincoln, and it says it comes from his his speech from his second inauguration, and he said as he was revealing his plans to heal this once divided nation, and I have to read this almost every day, guys. It says, with malice towards none, and with charity for all, let us strive to finish the work that we're in. So those two things are embedded in that statement. The ending of that statement says, we got work to do. Let us strive to finish the work we're in. But how do we do it? With malice towards none and with charity for all. And that's a kind of leadership I'm bringing to the table.
Nice. Very
Yeah,
nice.
I take not something we've necessarily seen a lot of in the city of Colorado Springs in the past. So good on you for doing that.
Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you.
Absolutely.
But it's hard, Mark. I won't lie, it's hard. It's very hard. Yeah. And I'm feeling the emotions coming even as I'm saying that. Okay, next chapter. let's talk about something else.
Well, let's talk about what's coming up, the future here. I was at the State of the City, and
So was I.
Yep, Mark was there. Wonderful presentation on, again, a broad list of accomplishments and some plans for the future. But what do you feel like coming up over the next year or so are going to be the major issues you're going to be dealing with, or things you're trying to accomplish?
Right. So expect, even before the end of the year, expect a couple of really cool announcements to come up. So I can't tell you any more than that. But one of them.
Come on, who's coming to town? You can
on.
tell us that. What big, huge business is coming here?
Our tens of listeners won't share it with anybody.
Nobody's gonna share it. Come on.
I don't know. After just overhearing you guys chat amongst yourself, and I was listening to all that. Now I don't know if I trust you that information, but we're
Smart
living in
man to
exciting
not
times.
trust us with information. That's for sure.
but I should probably be bragging about you guys because your listeners are watching and listening. So no, these guys are great. They're incredible. I trust them all the time. But
well, there went your credibility.
Yeah. Your opponent's going to use this video against you in a couple of years.
Well, we got 2C coming up. We got 2C coming up, so I'm really excited about extending that road improvement program.
Yeah, for our listeners, just a quick explanation of what that is.
All right, 2C. We had 30 plus years of deferred maintenance on our roads. If you lived there before 2015, you remember the days where our roads were just atrocious. We were not even able to fix our own road because previous era got rid of that sales tax, that dedicated sales tax. So to my predecessor's credit, one of the first things he did in office, amongst others, was to restore the sales tax. In 2015, the voters, thank you so much. You voted yes for 2C, which is the ballot name, but it is a road improvement program. And then you voted yes again in 2019 for this program. And I'm going to the voters on this election cycle to ask them to renew it. And this is a 0.57 cents on a $10 purchase. So we're not increasing tax to renew it for 10 years now, this time around.
I apologize for interrupting, but it's the same as it was in 2019. That was
yes,
also
sir.
0.57, but before that, 2015, it was like, I think 0.63. So
0.62, and then we dropped it to 0.57, and we're keeping it the same.
Yeah. So actually a little bit of a reduction from
exactly
what it was originally.
And here's what your listeners should take great comfort in is, since this program went into effect, we've reduced the number of damage claims against the city. So this is where residents will call to report the tires busted or the car is damaged. We've reduced it by almost 80%. That's a big deal because that's a terrible use of taxpayer money just to be fixing people's personal property. So I'm really proud of that, and we've repaved 1,700 lane miles, but we have another 5,000 to go. Most people don't know that Colorado Springs is the largest geographical city in the state. We're big. We have a lot of ground to cover, and so I'm looking forward to continuing the great work that we have done. And I know you both will, as political operators, you both will actually appreciate this. So in August, we polled the appetite around 2C. So check this out. 10 years polled 10 points higher than 5 years.
Yeah, the voters just want to have the stability to get it done.
Yeah, that's a sign of a good program.
Exactly, in the libertarian community. Yeah, in a libertarian community that we typically say no to giving government our tax money, but 10 years is polling way better than 5 years. So that's a affirmation from our residents, like, okay, this thing is making a difference. Keep going.
Yep.
How's speaking of ballot initiatives, I saw that you recently came out in opposition to legalization of recreational marijuana
yes, sir.
in the city of Colorado Springs. What can you tell us about that?
Yeah, I mean, Mark, when you look at...
By the way, I'm with you on this. Kyle is not, so just know that. That's Kyle supports recreational weed. I don't.
Well, you know, I have friends that disagree with me on this, and they've told me, they said, hey, we're still proud that we voted for you and we support you, but on this issue, this is the beauty of democracy. So for me, you know, some of this is it's personal, like many families. I'm thinking about my kids, you know, and I have my oldest is just susceptible to things like the habits like this that I do believe could lead to other kinds of behaviors. Now, I'm not saying for everyone, but I am saying that this is a reality. And here's a big thing for me. If you read my endorsement, you'll see me talk about how I began the show. The most desirable community, third best place to live, most neighborly city. We achieved all these things. We got to this point without recreational marijuana. I mean, the state demographer at the UCCS Economic Forum was saying this region is like the only area that is growing. White people are leaving other parts of the state. We're here, our community is flourishing without it. So I don't know what benefits it adds. And then coupled on top of that, we're having challenges with juvenile crime, and the data, both from the coroner and from our law enforcement folks, show that there are always drugs connected to those behaviors, and marijuana is part of it. So I don't want and this is not a knock on the businesses that are impacted and the businesses that they're doing. I understand where they're coming from, but I just don't want it to affect the flourishing of our city and the great things we got going on right now, and how people look at Colorado Springs as a great city, a beautiful city, an ideal city. I don't want to mess with it. So that's my perspective. I know some will disagree with me.
No, I appreciate that. And listen, yeah, I was downtown the other night at night on a weekend for the first time in forever, and I was kind of actually surprised that you talk about the flourishing city. Wow, I saw way fewer homeless people than I had seen in the past, and a few years back prior to you taking over as mayor. And it seems to me legalization of marijuana just kind of brings that element back into the city, and I like where it's headed now.
It is a real thing, and I know that's the whole gateway drug thing is a real thing. I mean, I shadowed my homeless outreach team officers, so we'll call them hot team, and code enforcement to look at to get proximate and close to the cleanup efforts. And we were there at Wagner Park, and I asked lots of questions. And by the way, those questions have actually have been translated now to budget decisions that I'm making for 2025 to help prioritize cleanup, enforcement, and other things. But I asked my team members that are out there working so hard to keep our city safe and clean, what do you attribute a lot of these things to? And I'll never forget one of my officers said that the drugs really affect our young people and our homeless people. And there are a lot of drug dealers out there that are really preying on both our young people and our homeless people, and they see the effects of it in our community. And so it's a real thing. It's a real thing, and I just don't believe that it's in the best interest of our community right now. Mark, thank you for the compliment about the changes you're seeing. I'll be honest, we're not quite there yet. No one's harder on themselves than me. I'm learning not to take it personal. My executive coach is saying, you gotta be able to separate like what's happening in the city from your own well-being. So I take it very personal. So we still have a long way to go. So we're gonna double down on presence and enforcement, but also not just enforcement, but provide the tangible help our unhoused community needs. I believe they too are crying for help, and we gotta help them. And just leaving them out in the streets to wander it's inhumane in my opinion. We really gotta help people, and so getting them the help they need is the way to go.
Mm-hmm.
So, that kind of leads into another topic we wanted to talk about. I mean, obviously, there's lots of components to the homeless issue, all of that, but primarily wanted to talk about affordable housing and kind of, I think Mark and I have talked on here on some of the episodes here around the fact that we felt like, I think, well, and I don't want to necessarily speak for Mark, but I felt like not allowing the Amara annexation not passing limits affordable housing opportunities in Colorado Springs at a time when it's really important.
Right.
So just wanted to maybe get your perspective on that a little bit. Maybe there's other things going on around affordable housing that maybe we don't know about, but just wanted to hear you talk a little bit about that issue.
Gosh, how much time do we have?
We have about 20 minutes.
Okay, I'll try to keep this one to 3 minutes. Housing solutions is huge for me. In fact, my new chief housing officer and homeless response officer, Amy Cox, just started today.
Very unbelievable hire, by the way.
Thank you.
Yep.
And I'll admit this to your listeners, I'm humble enough to say there's a lot I don't know, and a lot I still trying to figure out. It's why I stay close to the wisdom of others, other mayors, other cities. But one of the things I feel like I do well is to surround myself with good people. I'm really proud to bring Amy back. I'm really proud that Kevin Walker is now my planning director. We're just waiting for city council to
Oh,
confirm that with their vote.
I
So
thought
we'll
you surrounded yourself with good people. Kevin Walker. No, I'm kidding. He's a great guy, wonderful guy.
I know you know Kevin. I know you guys all go way back too. And
He's a
frankly,
great guy.
many of you knew Kevin before. I knew of Kevin. I really didn't know him. When we reached out for him to be interim, I had that interview with him, and man, he not only did he answer all the questions the right way, but our values aligned. And then he's interim, and he's crushing it. And so many people are complimenting him. So and then we did a national search, and unanimously the local team that was interviewing all the candidates chose him. So it's just an affirmation that we're making good decisions. But back to homelessness, I would tell you that there's hope. It's a complex problem. There are no easy answers, no silver bullet. Affordable housing is part of that, but getting to the root cause of homelessness is also part of that. When it comes to affordable housing, in fact, I don't like that name anymore. You rarely hear me say affordable housing. I think that word triggers the wrong response, because the residents in our city who care about the neighborhoods, when they hear that, they think projects, they think low income. No, we're talking about workforce housing, attainable housing, and residents that make good money but still can't live here. This is one that keeps me up at night. So yeah, the Amara decision, I know that could have helped move the needle. The process didn't play out, and I know those guys, and their intent was to actually be a part of the solution. And what people have asked me, how come you didn't get more involved? And that was an intentional effort to allow the process to play out. One of the things I'm trying to do is ensure that government is fair, transparent, and the mayor is not just picking winners and losers. And so that would have been a very important project for our community. But in the absence of that, there is still hope. We still have a lot of land to develop. I just toured one the other day, and it's still a lot of land to develop. I'm really proud of, when we talk about land to develop, I'm really proud of the faith community for stepping up. We have 4 churches now that are involved in housing, using excess church land for housing. Solid Rock Christian Center is one of those churches that just did the ribbon cutting a month ago for about 80 new units of attainable housing and workforce housing. And I expect to see more and more solutions. I think Colorado Springs really could be a shining example of a multifaceted solution. It's not just government, but it's government working with churches, like I just mentioned. It's government working with schools. The Harrison School District is working on one with one of our local nonprofit developers for housing for teachers. It's government working with private folks like Oakwood and Classic that are now building homes in that 300,000 range. And so I think to really move the needle, it's got to be, the solution has to be a multi-solution.
Yeah, it seems to me though, and I've watched this closely. You know, I've known those Amara guys, and for me, this issue is less about that development and more about the current state of developable lots within the city of Colorado Springs. You have one developer, who by their own admission, their website says they own 85% of the developable lots within the city of Colorado Springs.
Right.
That's a monopoly. They can dictate the cost per lot, right? I mean, they control that. You know,
Right.
I know another developer's trying to build a large high rise downtown Colorado Springs.
Right.
The developer that owns 85% of developable lots is saying no, don't let that happen. They're pushing hard on the city council. And it seems to me that, I mean, you said it early on in the podcast here, hey, we're growing. I mean, and that's a testament to the great things that the city of Colorado Springs is doing. But you can't grow unless you can build housing, and you're right. It's
Right.
I agree with you on the terminology. This is about workforce housing, right? Like, my
Right.
kids graduated from college. Professionals can't afford to purchase houses in Colorado Springs. So I think the median
Oh, that
price of a
breaks my
house is
heart. Right.
about $570,000. So how do you sort of crack that code on this? And I get that this isn't your issue um, necessarily,
It
and I
is
get
not,
that you're in
but
a
it's also is. Right.
yeah, and you're in a way
Yeah.
different position than the old mayor who put his thumb on the scale for the one developer. But how do you solve that problem to be able to come up with the developable lots that are necessary in order to be able to build that housing in the first place?
Right. I appreciate you saying it isn't my issue, and it's not, and it is at the same time. And it's
Sure.
what makes it not is because by law, I was sworn to keep our community safe,
Yep.
provide the right infrastructure, and care for our parks. Those are the three public nature of my job: public safety, public infrastructure, public parks. Now we can't have those other things if we don't help take care of the issues around homelessness, housing. So they're somewhat integrated. And when people need help, they reach out to the mayor because that's part of the job. And so while the city is not a housing provider, it is my job to ensure that I am stimulating the right kind of environment to encourage housing. And it's one of the reasons why I reached out to the Common Sense Institute, which is an independent research firm in Colorado, to say, hey, help me tell the story. Because if the city tried to tell the story, if I said, hey, here's the data, some of the people who are just have a bias against government would be like, I don't believe it. If I ask the builders to tell the story, people that have a bias against builders would say, well, we don't believe it. I asked a third party to do their own independent research, and they revealed that Colorado Springs may be short in housing up to 27,000 units. Now that's a lot. So we have a lot of work to do. How do we get there? And again, for me, it's creating the right type of environment to ensure that we can get there. I know we're talking about a lot of politics that has been, I can't control. And I wasn't involved in all those politics of who did what. But what I can do is chart a new pathway forward. And that's the work I'm doing. And that's why the team hears me say the process is as equally important as the outcome. There's a leader in this community that you guys all know, and he's very always encouraging to say, stick with your game plan. The process you're putting in place is going to leave a legacy for future generations, so that we can get to the solutions without all the politics that sometimes we're all caught up in.
Appreciate that answer. I really do. I truly do. Breath of fresh air.
Yeah.
I understand
Thank
it's
you.
a hard issue, but it's something that has just been, kind of an outsider looking in now. It's been frustrating to watch. Knowing
Right.
we have
Right.
opportunities here, but for whatever reason, we just can't get through, as you talk about, the politics,
Right.
and the picking winners and losers, and just doing what's right for the community to make it create some opportunities for some
Right.
affordable or for housing that works for workforce people. We want cops and firefighters and teachers
Bingo.
and nurses to be able to buy
Bingo.
houses, right? And they can't.
Here. I call them the pillars of our community. And by the way, it's the housing is, another pillar that it affects. And I know you both care about that. Our military.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So when I first started, I visited all 5 military installation, met with all the command senior team. Many of the 3 and 4-star generals have become friends of mine. I love our military. And when I asked in every base, what are your top needs? You know what the top 2 are? We just talked about housing and then childcare.
Yeah.
So here's why this is really important. If our soldiers have to worry about where they're going to live, or have to worry about their childcare needs, all of a sudden they're not focused on mission anymore. And that impacts our national security. So the housing conversation for me now becomes an issue of national security. I mean, we have to make sure, I mean, we celebrate being a military community. We celebrate Space Command being here, which, by the way, we were vulnerable when it came to affordability. We almost lost it because of affordability. We say thank you for your service. I mean, it's not enough just to thank with words. We have to put that into action. When we say thank you for your service, we better be trying to figure out how to put those words into action by trying to provide places for our soldiers to live. And so that's why this work is really important. I don't believe it's just one person or one entity. I think it's a multifaceted problem. So we need a multifaceted solution. And thank you for your passion, Mark, to ensure that our community is going in the right direction. I can feel it from you.
Yeah, I mean, listen, I was one of those military guys here at one point, right? I remember, what it was like to deal with those childcare issues, being part of a dual military family, and the stress of, hey, one of you has to be here, the other of you has to be there, and it doesn't jive at a time when you're supposed to be picking your kid up from daycare, right? And having to deal with those issues and understanding the stress of that. And at least at that time, we didn't have to worry as much about housing, but it's one of those issues that you watch it, and you're right. I mean, it takes so much in order to get this done. But you just see kind of these simple issues that are in front of us, and you think, my goodness, why can't we figure this out? I don't know.
And we will one step closer. I truly believe that
Sure.
Colorado Springs is going to be a shining example. When I get asked by, like Aurora, city of Aurora is taking I mean, we've not solved it by any means, but they're looking at Colorado Springs response to homelessness. In
Sure.
fact, the mayor gave us a lot of kudos on his USA Today article about Colorado Springs response. And when people ask me, what do you think you guys are doing well that sometimes other communities aren't? And I said, the more we can take away the politics from these issues and make it evidence-based, data-driven, and pragmatic and non-political, I truly believe with that too, we can solve the housing problem. And so I do have my work cut out for me. I said yes to the very thing I hate, which is politics, but there is my job involves politics. And I think one of the blessings of being an independent is being able to come into these conversations and do the right thing without having to go, I have this group or this group to make happy. And know that I also understand that comes with its own challenges and its own cost too.
Yeah. Well, we've got about 8 minutes left. I wanted to see what else coming up do you think are going to be some of the bigger issues like in the next year or so? Or doesn't have to be anything controversial. Could be something that's just real positive and a feel good thing for the community too. But
well, the one that's
who's coming to town, Yemi? Who's coming to town? No, I'm kidding.
Why do you think it's somebody coming to town?
Oh, because I know how these issues work.
Well, and speaking of coming to town, I'm really proud of. By the way, El Paso County in Colorado Springs is leading the state with a record number of economic development agreements, 12. Will represent about 3,000 new jobs, 1,500 retained jobs, and more. So we, economically speaking, I want to tell our community, hang on, there is hope. I know we're kind of living in weird economic times, but all the signs are saying 2026, things should be back and booming. But to Kyle's question, one that I think it's on the top of everyone's mind, and it should be on the top of my mind as mayor, has to do with public safety and crime. And we're seeing a decline in certain areas, but we're also seeing uptick in things like car theft, mostly from juveniles, 12, 13, 15 kids. Breaks my heart. To a legislative summit that I'm having November 20th to bring our law enforcement together, our businesses who have been affected by smash and grabs, our residents who have been affected by car theft, and then bring our legislators all to the table and say, here's what's happening and how can we work together to improve that. So that's coming. The 20 officers that we're adding next year should help move the needle. Getting to authorized strength is exciting. We just opened our crime center, which is a real-time information that provides our officers just information that they need as they do their job. That's exciting. A police training academy, that project is exciting. I know you haven't heard much from me about it because we're still doing some work behind the scenes. We're trying to not just pursue a training academy. My big, hairy, and audacious goal is that we create a center for public safety excellence. A smaller version of what is just right outside Atlanta called the Guardian Academy, and leadership development, mental health care, and Colorado Springs becomes a place that not only trains its officers for the new realities of today, because a lot of it now is behavioral health, what our officers are expected to deal with. So we're talking de-escalation, but we become the center for some of those, and we're training other law enforcement folks from surrounding areas in southern Colorado. So I'm truly excited about all the efforts to make Colorado Springs one of the safest communities. We have a lot of work to do. Don't get me wrong, but the reason why I believe that this is so important, because if you don't have a safe city, you have nothing. I say a safe city is a great city. A great city is a safe city. And this immigrant, I just got emotional again, but this immigrant knew what it's like to grow up in a different part of the world where in your time of need, you didn't have anybody to call, and you felt unsafe. It's why so many people love America, and we have to make sure America is still that country. Because I'm so proud of the women and men who my wife will often see me tear up at night when I go to bed to go, hey, we get to sleep at night. Why some people are out there ensuring our safety. And so that's really important to me. And so I really want to lean into the several different solutions to ensure that we're moving the needle with our community safety. I'm a parent of young kids. I think about it all the time. If you can't walk around with your kids, if you get harassed or worried about someone going to hurt your family, that's not okay. And so I'm really, that's a big one for me in this new year. And my hope is that we, at least for the Center for Public Safety Excellence, we at least identify a location, land, and we start to do some work around there, because it's a much needed project.
I love hearing that. I mean, I don't know why anybody would want to be a law enforcement professional today. I mean, it is just so
I've said those
hard.
words. I've said those words.
So hard.
I've said those same words.
From absolutely. From what you said about the mental health perspectives of that, the having to make these split-second decisions and then having them, kind of Monday morning quarterbacked after people can watch it on the cam frame by frame by
Every frame,
the
exactly.
safety of their own basement, So I love hearing that we're trying to, create the resources and the support for those law enforcement professionals that's necessary in order for them to actually just do the job.
Exactly. And then let me tell you something else, because we're talking about safety. Let me tell you something else that I'm really excited about is, and Chief Vasquez is excited about this. You hear him say, Mayor, we need community solutions. We need to hold our community accountable. Why are 12, 13, 14, 15-year-olds out there committing crime and not in school? And I'm really proud of the many organizations like Forge Evolution, Men of Influence, who are coming alongside the city to say, this is our bread and butter. We know this community. Let us help. Because at some point, guys, the whole analogy and metaphor of upstream, downstream solution, you're at a stream, crap is coming down the stream. You're cleaning up, but it's still coming. You're cleaning up. Okay, let me hire more people. Man, you just keep hiring more people to clean all this crap. At some point, you have to stop and go, what's happening upstream? Let's go upstream to stop it. And I'm really excited of upstream solutions, because our officers want that too. They don't just want to be the guys responding to crime. They're also saying, how can we prevent crime? So I'm really excited about the upstream solutions and the community efforts that are happening with all these nonprofits in town who are coming alongside the city to say, let us help. And the chief of police has a youth advisory council, and I've met with them. And this group of high school youth who are advising, think about it, they're advising the chief of police on issues that young people are facing. And they get to be liaison back to their schools in terms of what the city is working on. So I'm super excited about upstream solutions to prevent crime as well.
That's
Good,
awesome.
good. Well, thank you for coming on. I know you got to run, but is there anything you want to say in closing to residents
Like,
or our listeners? Or
maybe about like how great we are and how everybody should listen to us all the time because we have all the solutions, something like that. I don't know.
Hey guys,
I'm kidding.
listeners, these guys are the best. You're not gonna find any other. This is like the best podcast in our city, and they made me say that. By the way, I'm just kidding.
the
No,
only one.
I love this city. I want our residents to know that I know that we're not there yet. We saw a 12% reduction in homelessness, but do we still have a lot of work to do in homelessness? Yeah. Absolutely. And please know that this mayor is living in the tension of celebrating everything that has gone well, but also realizing we have a lot of work to do, and I can't do it alone. I need you. That was a campaign promise I made. I want you to be at the decision-making table, and that's happening. And so I need you. And we're actually trying to plan, perhaps I think it's going to happen in New Year, another citywide tour for me to get back to the districts and to talk about the strategic plan, the strategic action items, update on progress, and to hear more from our residents. And also, really important, this one is coming out soon. We did a survey. We surveyed ourselves so that we're not in our own echo chamber, giving ourselves pat in the back. We've asked the residents, how's your city in these areas, and what are the most important things to you? So we're crunching that number, that data points, and we're going to be releasing it at the city council work session early November, so residents know what they've said. And we're going to take that information and we're going to translate that into the things that we get done on your behalf. So thank you for listening in. Thank you for your support. And I'm not sure I'll be on again. So I'm gonna wish your listeners and viewers happy Thanksgiving and happy holidays as well.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Appreciate that.
Honored to have you.
Yeah, very honored, and appreciate you
Honored to
taking
be on
the
the
time.
show. Yeah.
We appreciate you so much.
Thank
Maybe
you, guys.
after the
Thank you,
first of
gentlemen.
the
Keep up the
year,
good
you
work.
can come back.
All right. Take care, Mayor.
Okay, sounds good. I like that. Yeah.
Thanks, Mr. Mayor. Wow, what a breath of fresh air.
Yeah, like you said ahead of time, what a great guy. So,
and we asked him some hard questions and he just freaking leaned into it and did his best, right? I mean, there was some fluff in there, I'll admit that, because he's a good guy. But I mean, asked him some hard questions and he leaned right into it. I love that.
well, and I also like him talking about how, there was one instance where he's talking about maybe he knows he personally doesn't have all the answers, and it's about making sure that he has the right people around him to do those things. So to me, that's always a good sign of leadership. If you feel like you're hiring people who are smarter than you, that's good leadership. And so I think that's one of the things he sounds like he's trying to do. So.
Well, without a doubt. I mean, leaders that have the confidence and the emotional security to be able to hire people that are smarter than them. I mean, quite frankly, we haven't seen that in the city of Colorado Springs in the mayor's office in a little while, and it is just really good to see somebody that has that wherewithal and personal security to be able to hire those kinds of people. That's a great thing. I agree with you.
Yeah. So, what is pissing you off this week?
Oh my gosh, Kyle. I mean, it's always something. That's for sure. And this one, a lot of times it's kind of old man get off my lawn sorts of issues that are funny, but this is one that actually means something to me and is just stunning when I heard this. But in Colorado, I don't know if most people know this. Elected officials, when they get pay raises, they're not allowed to enjoy that pay raise per the Colorado Constitution. They're not allowed to enjoy that pay raise until after they get reelected. And I mean, our listeners can look it up for themselves. It's Article 12, Section 11 of the Colorado Constitution. That just effectively says, hey, if you're an elected official, There's a pay raise that's coming. You don't get to enjoy that pay raise until after you stand for reelection. And the reason behind that is, you hear all these, talk and discussion about congressmen that vote in their own pay raises and do those things. But we don't want a circumstance where elected officials are in this for the money.
Yeah.
Right. And if it does come down to a pay raise, they should be able to explain that to the voters before they're re-elected to office. That's what the Colorado Constitution says. Well, our district attorney in El Paso County, Michael Allen, has figured out a creative way to get around the Colorado Constitution because he, no kidding, Kyle, wants a $54,000 pay raise.
Wow.
$54,000 pay raise. I think it represents somewhere more than 25% increase in his salary. When we're struggling to have the dollars to pay everybody else in local government, in particular in El Paso County, when we're struggling to fill potholes in El Paso County, this DA thinks that he deserves, Michael Allen, district attorney for El Paso County, thinks he deserves a $54,000 pay raise. Now, maybe he does. I certainly don't think so. Don't think he needs a 25% increase in his pay. But I'm guessing even Michael Allen doesn't think that he deserves this for a couple of reasons. Number one, he hasn't actually taken this request to the Board of County Commissioners. He sent his lackeys to do it for him. So hasn't even had the stones to go to the county commission and say, hey, I want this $54,000 pay raise. No, I'm going to send my lackeys to ask that question, to demand that the county commissioners pass this $54,000 pay raise for me. Not even willing to do it himself. But here's the other thing, and this is the thing that is the most despicable in all of this, Kyle, that Michael Allen is doing as the DA of El Paso County. And that is not giving the voters a chance to have transparency into this process. I mean, there's a reason he could have asked for this $54,000 raise 1 year ago, 2 years ago, 3 years ago, right? And then not exercised it until the upcoming term when he's reelected to office. But he doesn't do that. What does he do? He waits. He waits until ballots go out, maybe even till after the election's over, to then have, after he's safely reelected to office, to then have the county commission pass this $54,000 raise for him. I mean, we have seen unethical behavior out of this guy, Michael Allen, the district attorney for El Paso County, time and time and time again. And here he is, one more time, being unethical to the people that put him in office. And he's unethical because he's asking for this demanding this $54,000 raise and not giving the voters a chance to know about it before the election. It is absolutely ridiculous. I hope the legislature passes a piece of legislation to prevent this from happening in the future. They can make that more restrictive. And I hope they call it Michael Allen's law to prevent guys like Michael Allen from being able to do this kind of shit again in the future, because it is absolutely ridiculous. It lacks transparency and it is unethical beyond belief. And that's an office where you need somebody with the highest moral and ethical character in order to carry out the incredible responsibility of public safety for the people of the community that they represent.
Yeah, you want those people to trust in those officials, and this doesn't sound like the type of thing that does that. So
I mean, how can they trust? I mean, literally waiting until ballots have gone out to go ask for this or demand this $54,000 pay raise. Go make the effing argument, right? Make your case. If you think you deserve to make $54,000 more, you should be able to make that case to the people.
Yeah.
I mean,
Well,
personally, I mean, the guy's got ethical problems as it is, and I don't think he's worth $54,000 more. But if he believes it, and apparently he doesn't believe it either, because if he did, he'd actually go to the people and make the case as to why he deserves $54,000 more.
yeah. Yeah.
Unbelievable. Absolutely unbelievable. And I hope the county commission hears this. I hope every listener we have hears this and calls them and says, hey, since this guy waited till the absolute last minute, don't give him a $54,000 pay raise. Don't give him a $20,000 pay raise. Maybe that's what he's worth. But if he had actually done this by the way it's supposed to happen, he could have asked for that a while back before the voters are voting in this election, to do this with a little bit of an integrity. But because there's no integrity involved, don't give the guy a dime.
Well, it'll be interesting to see if this comes out at all before, if even anybody has an opportunity to have it factor into their vote.
And
But
by the way, Michael Allen, you get a hold of this, call us. We want to have you on our podcast, and you can make the argument for why you deserve a $54,000 pay raise and why you deserve it in a circumstance where you lack the transparency in order to ask the voters to understand why you're getting that money. Come on, tell us why you're doing it the way you're doing it right now.
that'd be great. Love to have him on to hear that one.
Absolutely. He won't do it. I mean, there's no excuse, Kyle. No excuse at all.
Well, thanks again for another great episode. Again, this is Kyle Blakely and Mark Waller. This has been another episode of We Have Issues. Again, great guest today, our mayor here in Colorado Springs, Mayor Yemi Mobolade. Hope everybody really enjoyed listening to the episode. Also remember, go on YouTube and wherever you get your podcasts and like or subscribe to this podcast so you can continue to get this quality information and analysis week after week. But we will be back next week. We're down to 3 weeks before the election. So over the next few weeks, we'll be back with a look at some of the things that are happening as we get close to November 5th. And remember that on November 5th, we're going to be doing a live episode of the podcast in partnership with the Gazette here in Colorado Springs, broadcasting live from their newsroom. We're going to have on a bunch of guests as we look at the federal, state, and local issues, the returns coming in, and what that means for all of us. So appreciate you being here.